There are very few other things that you can do that impact almost every aspect of your life, like getting to a place of financial freedom. Once you are financially independent, this opens up a world of options and opportunities that you just wouldn't have access to otherwise if you were trading time for dollars and working a W-2 job. This is why I talk a lot about achieving financial freedom on this channel, which is getting to a place where your monthly cash flow from your assets supports your lifestyle. And a lot of times the two main assets that people talk a lot about when it comes to achieving financial freedom is either owning a business or owning rental property or real estate. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I believe that real estate is the most efficient, the longest lasting, the least risky way to get to financial independence. There are 6 main reasons that I'm going to go through as to why I believe this to be the case, but I do want to say right up front that if the only goal is to generate cash as quickly as possible, then real estate might not be the best option for you. You know, you could go out and start selling a product or a service today and you could generate some cash. But what I'm going to talk through is why I believe real estate is the best, longest lasting way to achieve financial independence. The first big reason why I believe that real estate is the best way to get to financial freedom is because every month your wealth increases over time when you own real estate. So I had a guy that I knew a while back who was an older gentleman. He had been a financial planner his entire career, and his niche was working with small business owners. And so I talked to him about that experience and what he learned working with these small business owners. And he said one of the most heartbreaking things is that he worked with a lot of these people for decades throughout their entire career as they own businesses. And then they get to the point where they're ready to retire just to realize that there wasn't a whole lot of value in their business, you know, because the vast majority of small business owners, the business relies on that owner to operate. You know, whether they're selling a product or a service, the owner is inserted deeply into that business. And so it's very difficult to sell. There's not a lot of value because somebody else can't take that business without the owner. He said the big difference between the owners that retired and lived a great retirement and had a lot of money in retirement and the ones that really struggled in retirement are the business owners that actually owned the real estate underneath their business. In a lot of cases, you know, people would buy a commercial building and they'd operate out of it. Maybe they had other suites that they rented out throughout their owning their business, and they would pay off the loan on that business every month. And so the value of that building consistently went up while they paid off that property. And so that was the big difference, is all of a sudden they had this huge asset that was there that they could sell. And that's what most of these small business owners retired off of that did really well, was the real estate that was underneath it, not the value of the business. Owning a solid rental property is very similar to owning a small business in that it pays you, it kicks off money on a monthly basis. But the big difference with rental properties, you have an asset underneath that consistently over the long run increases in value, and you have somebody else, your renter, paying off the mortgage on that property or the debt on that property. So every single month you're getting this little bit bigger spread or wealth generation just by owning that asset that's paying you at the same time. And typically you just don't get that with the typical small business. Hey, real quick, the sponsor for today's video is the #1 banking platform built specifically for rental property investors. I am constantly looking for the best tools to manage my properties and my finances, and in my opinion, Baselane has built the ultimate all-in-one solution. Baselane allows you to set up unlimited virtual bank accounts and debit cards for better visibility in your cash flow and finances, and you can also do other things like sign leases with tenants, collect rent, keep track of your books, and review your analytics, and finally, it's all in one place. Plus, they have the industry-leading annual percentage yield, which is just a fancy way of saying you make a lot more money on the money that you have deposited in your Baselane bank accounts. So I personally use the platform along with over 40,000 other real estate investors. So you can use the link that just popped up, and it's also in the video description below, and open as many business bank accounts as you want, and it's all for free. The link is baselane.com/Kirby, which is my first name. That's BASELANE.com/KIRBY. The second reason why I love real estate to get to financial freedom is because it's about the most sustainable investment that exists. I mean, if you think about it, people have been investing in real estate for thousands of years. People have owned inns, people have owned rental properties, people have done house hacking before house hacking was ever a term that anyone even talked about. People just rented out rooms in their houses. Basically, since the time that humans existed, they've needed a shelter. And that's not something that's going away. You think about all the different businesses that have come and gone over time, and real estate really just hasn't ever changed. People have always needed a place to live, and that's probably always going to continue into the future. So it's the most sustainable, tangible investment that you could put your money in. The third reason why I love real estate to get to financial freedom is because the tax benefits that come with owning real estate. So not only does it kick off a whole bunch of cash and it increases in value, but then the IRS allows you to write off a big chunk of the value of your real estate every year, which offsets that income so that the taxable income for most people who own and invest in real estate is typically pretty low. Reason number 4 is that the quality of life or the flexibility that a rental property offers is typically much better than owning or running a small business. And we've already talked about how small business owners typically are extremely involved in their business, especially in the beginning. You know, they're typically doing all the tasks required in their business, and it requires them to show up and be there and spend a lot of time on that business, as opposed to if you buy a really solid rental property that's a high cash flowing rental property and you calculate in all of the expenses to operate and manage that property as part of your expenses, and it still cash flows on top of that, then each rental property can be almost its own entity, and you can just stack those rental properties to consistently make more and more cash flow from them, as opposed to the typical small business that you're extremely involved in. The fifth reason why I like real estate as a means to get to financial freedom is that the capital is typically much easier to come by. So with real estate, you can go out and you can get a 30-year fixed rate loan just above prime that requires a pretty minimal down payment, especially in the beginning for your first few properties. And there's private investors out there who love to own a part of real estate or give a high fixed interest rate loan on real estate because it's a tangible asset. They've got something underneath that's got value to it. You're not probably going to find a 30-year fixed rate loan on a business that's just above prime. Like the type of financing that you get with real estate is about the best terms that you'll ever find out there on anything, because you've got this asset that's been around, like we talked about, for thousands of years, and most lending institutions are extremely comfortable with it. They know that it's not going away. You can insure the real estate, so if it ever burns down, you could rebuild it, and it's a very safe loan for them to give. So it's a lot easier to come by the capital that is required to start accumulating real estate. And the final reason why I love real estate as a means to get to financial freedom is because you can automate almost everything about real estate investing these days. And the method that I use to get to financial freedom is these low-cost, high cash flowing short-term rentals. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to invest in short-term rentals because that sounds very hands-on. Sounds like you're going to need to be involved. You got guests coming and going all the time. And so it just sounds like it's going to take up so much more of your effort. And I've actually found the opposite to be true. I used to have long-term rentals, and those actually required more of my time and effort than short-term rentals, because short-term rentals, there's so many tools that allow you to automate so many of the components these days. So everything from Airbnb to property management tools to pricing tools, you can automate the cleans, the scheduling of the cleanings between guests automatically when bookings come in. You can automate guest messaging. You can automate pricing adjustments. So you can scale this portfolio of short-term rentals over time pretty easily, because you can set up systems that allow you to manage the operations of the property, as opposed to with a lot of small businesses where you need to be much more involved in the process of the day-to-day. So you can own a small business or invest in a rental property, and both can work great. There's exceptions to every rule. I'm not getting down on either one of them, but what I'd encourage you to do is, before you go out and buy or start a small business or buy a rental property, is to get super clear on what it is that you want as an outcome from either one, because either one of them should serve you. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people who thought it was a good idea to get into a business or get into a real estate investment, and they find out afterwards that they're actually serving it. They're paying out of their pocket for that investment property, or that business is just taking up their entire life force. All their time, all their energy, all their mental capacity is going into running that business, and that's not what they wanted. They wanted something that was going to be more automated and serve them. So I want you to think about that as you're considering either one of these options and decide which one is going to make the most sense for you. And if you're interested in working with me personally on buying your first high cash flowing short-term rental, then you can set up a call with me at the link that just set up, and we can talk about my first vacation rental investment blueprint program, which is a program where I walk you through the step-by-step process of identifying the right market, the right type of financing, the right type of property, how to set up all your systems. And I meet with you weekly, on a weekly basis, to go through the steps and actually go through deals that you're considering buying. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can go to the link that's at the bottom of the screen. You can set up that call with me and we can talk through it and see if it's a good fit for your goals. As always, thanks for joining me in this video. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.